Good morning, everyone. This is Michael Virardi. It's the 21st of March, and we're back with another Jumpstart Monday episode. I'm so excited today because once again, we're talking about power skills because soft is the new hard. It's not easy. And so we have some great people, some great celebrities, people who have done there, been that, and got the t-shirt to help us with soft skills. Today, we're talking about negotiations, and I'm so excited to have my friend George Sphiktos as our guest. Let me tell you a few things about George. George has been working for Nielsen for over 36 years. Nielsen is an information data and marketing measurement firm. They turn over 6 billion US dollars. They are in 100 countries and they have over 44,000 people. So today we've invited George to talk to us about negotiations. And before we get him on, let's get Sophia on to tell us a few things about negotiations. Sophia, welcome.
Good morning, Michael. Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited that we are talking about this skill today because it's a skill that I want to develop for myself the past 3 years. And yeah, the story I have for you today it's coming from my mother-in-law. Actually, she is one of the best business persons that I know. And when I got my first job to come in Switzerland and my first offer came through, I called her and I said, I'm not sure if the salary they are offering me is fair. I'm not sure if it's a good salary for Switzerland. Can you tell me if it's a good salary for Switzerland? And she told me, you're asking me the wrong question. The question is a salary good for the value that you will bring to the company?
Wow.
And it was actually the first time that I gained the confidence to negotiate because she told me, you have nothing to lose. They already offered you the job. Go and talk to them. And it was a clumsy negotiation, I have to say. But yeah, for me, that gave me the thinking that I have to learn more about negotiation. And it's a subject that I'm really excited to learn about today from our guest, George Sphiktos.
Very good. Without any further ado, let's welcome George onto our stage. George, welcome to the Jumpstart Monday show, my friend.
Good morning to Sophia and to Michael and to anybody who's listening here. It's great to be here. And I really admire you, Sophia, for talking to your mother-in-law about negotiation advice. And that's a bit dodgy because my wife says to me that always said to me that I'm a useless negotiator. Why? Because I never say no to my kids. I always said yes. You know, fine. That's one way. I never wanted to negotiate with my kids. As simple as that, because the moment you allow emotion to get in front of you in a negotiation, you're no longer negotiating. You lost before you started. So
Wow. George,
I
you
like I
started
like
out
very
with
much.
giving value, my friend.
Well,
Giving value.
Sophia triggered off. She mentioned the magic word, mother-in-law.
I have to say, I negotiate with my daughter every day and I always lose.
Exactly. People think that they negotiate with their spouse. You don't. You just say yes, dear, and shut up and move along. Otherwise, you live the rest of your life being aggressive. Negotiation is all about emotions, handling your
Yes.
own emotions. Yes, sir.
So let's take a break and ask my wife to switch off the Jumpstart Monday show for today, guys, until the show finishes. George, George,
Good.
Sophia will be back in just a little while with questions, so feel
Yes.
free to ask your questions, dear friends. So, George, my question to you is the following, my friend.
Mm,
Let's start off with this one. Inexperienced negotiators
mm.
resort to clever tactics. Experienced negotiators, from my experience or from what I read, is that they try to build rapport, they prepare, they care about their counterpart. Does this hold true? And if it does, can you give us your 50 cents on this one, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, you said inexperience resort to clever tactics. What is important is to define or be careful. Lots of people try to use smart tactics, or if you're trying to outsmart the other side or pretend to be smart, nobody likes to feel intimidated. If you're using technical knowledge to say that, all right, that's me try to be clever with you, that's not a smart move because it will actually result to the other side, raising their defenses up and feel intimidated about it. Whereas you said it, experienced people are more likely to find bridges, connection points that will eventually facilitate a better discussion. So my 2 cents of advice is that don't try to outsmart the other side. It's not about outsmarting each other. It's about building rapport and connection points. Yeah.
Can you give us some solid examples, because you've been there, you've done that, you were in the negotiation room. I know you can talk for hours, but let's say if we build on three major pillars, how can I prepare best for my upcoming negotiation without acting smart?
Okay. Very good question. How can you prepare best? It's actually, for me, it's simple. It's focused on the client needs and wants. Lots of people just focus, what do I want to get out of this thing? What do
Right.
I want? Which is fair. Of course, you want something, but the other side wants something. The coin has always two sides. I mean, it's. I mean, the English have a beautiful saying that in order to get something, you want to give something. And the English have this beautiful saying is that you scratch my back and I scratch yours. And I have an issue with that. I have a real issue with that. A, I don't have nails because I bite the damn things. And B, my wife hates scratching my back. She tells me that. She does. So I went on eBay and I bought one of these things. You've all seen it. It's a back scratcher. I have them everywhere. So find a solution. Every problem has a simple solution. So build bridges, understand the other side's needs. Okay, not so much wants, because they will give you a long laundry list of wish lists. I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and I want that. The response to that is, great, I hear you out. Let me tell you what that I can give you today, not what you want, because it's two different things. What you can give, you're not going to kill yourself and give some. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Don't,
Very
because you will
true.
fail. Yeah,
So being prepared,
yeah,
building bridges, also
sure.
listening to the other side, and understanding there are two sides to the coin, and you don't go there like a speech. It's about your audience. It's not about you.
It
Exactly like
is.
giving a speech. So I understand it much better now.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
should you be more humane in a negotiation? Because I remember you once
yeah.
told me that there is no win-win situation, we shouldn't aim like
No.
this, if I understood
Okay.
well. Or should you be more empathetic? Is the word? I don't know which is the
All right.
right word.
Okay. The most buzzword use you're going to hear in every single negotiation is that you want to have a win-win situation. In my book, a win-win is all in the head. What does it mean, win-win? Does it mean cutting the pie 50-50? Human nature by default is defined by greed. Nobody, you cannot
Wow.
say I go 50%. What difference does it make, Michael, if you get 55 and I get 45, or the other way around? What is important is that you feel that you got a fair deal. Fairness is, as our good friend Chris Voss, who's a great negotiator, he was at FBI 34 years, said how powerful the F word in negotiation is. And the F word in negotiation is fairness. Fairness is a very powerful concept. Accusing the other side of being unfair is powerful. Or say, do you think that is fair, Michael? What you're asking, do you think that is fair? How can I do that? Don't ask why. Why are you asking them? The moment you ask why in a negotiation raises a defense barrier by asking, how do you expect me to do that? And shut up. Look at them in the eye and go quiet. Silence is more powerful than words. And lots of people forget how silence is important. So, the secret of being a great negotiator is not rocket science. It's not. Is very much a complex, mastering a complex skill set. And what do I mean by that? Learning to read between the lines, learning to listen, the ability to think clearly under pressure, the ability to instigate trust, to show integrity. all these what you call soft skills, but yet so hard. All right, it's easier said than done, and it takes experience. So it's not one thing; it's so many different things. Okay.
George, this is crystal clear. I
Yeah.
also love the difference between why and how. I
Yeah.
remember when you came here at Virardi and you ran a training session, you told us about why. I stopped asking why, and you were right. We're putting people on the defensive, whereas appealing to their sense of fairness with the
Yeah.
how is amazing. So
Yeah.
you've
And
negotiated over $1 billion US dollars or euros in negotiations. And
correct.
your average deal, if I remember correctly, was around 16 million across 17 countries.
On
And
average.
you've been on average, and you've been in those boardrooms. Uh, what is the number one advice when it comes to protecting your profitability and gaining as much as you can from the pie, or protecting the relationship and not losing the relationship? What is your number one
Mm.
advice when you have to deal with these two important
It's
weightlifts?
excellent question, Michael, because you know what? Protecting your let me before I answer that, let me tell you something like that. Sales skills determine what you get. Negotiation skills determine what you keep. So you can go for a huge deal. You go for a huge deal. If you don't negotiate, okay, I closed the deal. Hooray, hooray. But what did you close? Any deal or a profitable deal? And never forget, you can have a blood path of a negotiation, a very tough one, not a blood path. I take that back, right? You must always remember that after you finish and you handshake, shake hands, whatever, you're going to continue to work with the other side. So yes, relationships drive the negotiations. I mean, all big organizations have trained procurement departments. Some of them are trained to be not some of them, most of them are always reject the first offer, be aggressive and do that, and do this and do that. But you got to protect the relationship. So very often when I was at Nielsen, my job was to even protect our own people, what were the global client business partners. I was the guy who had to say the no's, to be the nasty guy, not to ruin the relationship, but to say, sorry, we cannot do that. And I will get the bad looks. I don't care. Well, I do care. What I cared about is to get the deal done in a mutually beneficial way in each other's mind. Whether that was 55-45 doesn't matter. As long as the other side didn't feel cheated or in any way. That's what win-win is all about. It's all in the mind. It's all up here. It's a kind of think about it like it's all driven by emotional intelligence, which has to deal with empathy. If you cannot demonstrate empathy in negotiations, then you got a problem. And empathy is very, very different from sympathy. You're my client, Michael, you got a challenge. You tell me the problem. It's being sympathetic and start showing these crocodile tears and fake things doesn't help. You got to be genuine and really repeat back to the client by active listening, all those tricks. Yeah.
That's great. One last question, because we have
Mm,
questions coming in from the audience.
mm.
And please do send your questions if you want them answered. If we don't have enough time, George will answer each and every question and send you an answer back. But George, one last question. If there is one book I should read to become better in my negotiation skills, which is that book and why?
Okay, you are asking me to be biased now because I just finished one such book, which is right behind me, which is an unbelievable book by Christopher Voss. All right, it is called Never Split a Difference. Okay, let me grab it. Here it is. Never Split a Difference. Negotiating as if your life depended on it. And it's funny, because most of the great salespeople, they are very quick to make a sale because they always look for the middle ground. Let's split the difference. 8, 10. No, no, no. No. Split it twice in your head. And then you do that. And he's brilliant. He was 34 years chief negotiator at FBI, and his book is full of pragmatic examples and real stories. It's not all that blah blah theory. The guy is unbelievable. Yeah.
Wow. You know something? We have one of our fans and friends has made a recap because I always do a recap before I hand it over to Sophia. But one of our fans and friends has made a recap, and here it is from Katerina. She says, be prepared, focus on the client's needs and wants, build bridges. Don't overpromise and don't underpromise and underdeliver. I'm taking it out, Sophia, so people can see our face. I can see it from the back. Don't
Yeah,
ask why and how they want you to deliver that. Give them a moment of silence. Develop soft skills. Give time to yourself to grow and gain experience. Build long-term relationships. Follow up with your clients. Be honest. Demonstrate emotional intelligence.
excellent.
Active listening. Show compassion. Katerina Fili, you just won yourself a 1 year subscription to
Cool.
the Stand Out for helping me and Sophia make the recap.
Yeah.
So George Sphiktos in
And
less
don't be
than
afraid,
six. Yes,
Michael, do not be afraid of the word no, because when you hear the word no, that's when a negotiation starts. The word yes could be a trap.
the word yes could be a trap. Very true.
Exactly.
Very true.
No,
Very true.
don't be
It
fear of
could be a
no.
trap.
Mm.
So Sophia, I'm bringing on Sophia. Let me bring Sophia on. Sophia, before we get some comments from our friends and fans, tell us if you've learned something new today from George Victos, and then get to our first question, please.
I learned many things today, and I will. I think what will stay in my mind is what you said. Do not be afraid of the word no. No starts a
Yeah.
negotiation. That's an amazing. Yeah, you dropped many. How do you say? Buckets of wisdom today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Pleasure. My
One
pleasure.
one comment that I saw that came in that I think is worth mentioning from Sergio Sergiu. He said, being in negotiations for 13 years myself, a negotiation is based on common ground, build trust both between sides, and is always the best deal.
Correct.
Any comments on this one, George?
No, that's fine. That is the objective, to find that common ground. It's not a boxing match, you know. The hard reality, however, in today's commercial world out there, is a blood path. And most big organizations, they have trained procurement people, and they're not going to come out of you with kindness and looking for common ground. They would come out very, very aggressive, and if, because they want to move you outside your comfort zone. All
Yes,
right.
yes.
And that is when really it does help to avoid all these kind of tactics, the good cop, bad cop. There are dozens and dozens of tactics out there. You can find them on the web. Just Google them, all right? So yes, I fully agree with what you just saw. It's just the reality out there is tough.
It is tough. It is. George, I have one question coming
Yeah,
on my mobile send now from Savas
yeah,
Konstantinidis.
sure.
He says that he's not very comfortable in negotiations because of his style, his type. He's always a yes guy, as you said with your
Yeah.
spouse earlier. So he says, can he learn, or is this a waste of time and he should assign this to somebody from his team?
First of all, excellent observation, and I like people who are honest with themselves and they do that. And it is a problem if you feel that you are a yes kind of guy, because in some cultures, for example, in Asia, people have this conflict avoidance thing. They don't want to get into conflict, and that inevitably leads to a lot of problems because they cannot say no to a client. Don't get me wrong, I didn't like to say no to the clients, but there are unreasonable demands that you should push back. And you know what? You might not necessarily say the word no, but you should be smart enough to trade things. Okay, Mr. Michael, you want that. What are you going to do for me? You know what? Find ways to trade. Negotiations, smart negotiations about trading things. So my piece of advice, don't be a yes person. Yes, I could consider doing that for you if you could consider. Start shifting a mode of thinking into what is called always be trading. Go to a trading mode rather than that a yes mode or a no mode. Trade.
It's not
Everything is
about yes or
negotiable.
no. It's about everything is negotiable and go to a training
Oh
mode.
yeah, yeah, everything is negotiable. Absolutely. There are no rules in negotiation. Number one rule is that there are no rules.
Wow, no rules.
No,
George
yeah.
Sphiktos, I don't know if it's your looks or if it's your brains, but we have a lot of comments coming in,
It's my
and
hairstyle.
maybe your hairstyle, my friend. But the good thing is, in a few years, I'm getting there, so maybe I'll have the same sex appeal. So before closing, George, I would like to thank you very much for accepting our invitation, for being so prepared, and for also, in a very concise and simple way, you have given us some gems of wisdom galore that we will keep within our arsenal, and we will be using in our next negotiation.
Yeah.
Sophia, anything just before closing and giving George the last word?
No,
Yes.
I'm amazed about the comments that we receive from the people. So thank you very much again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, George. George, a
Yeah.
final word from you, my friend, before we say goodbye to our friends and fans. Final word from you.
I'm a simple guy, and I would like to say one thing: just be yourselves and genuine. Borrow from others what you think they do well, but you are never going to be Michael Virardi or Sofia or George. Just be yourself. That's what I always say. Do it my way, as Frank Sinatra said. You know, it's as simple as
Yes,
that.
I've done
Yeah.
it my way. Correct.
Yeah.
Wow,
Thank you.
amazing. Dear friends and fans, thank you very much for tuning in for another episode. Please note that tomorrow I'm flying off to London. I'm giving a speech at University College London. So I'll be off this week. But if you need anything, Sophia is here. And thank you very much once again to George for being such a great guest and a great friend. Thank you very much,
No,
guys.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Bye
much.
bye.